Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. This is really my house. This is not a set. If it were a set, as I often tell you, it would look, I think, a lot nicer, a lot neater and nicer. So this is my home. This is what a lot of guys who come in here call my man cave, but it's not really my man cave, even though it has cigars. God bless my wife. She sits here with me all the time while I write, we talk, and I smoke my cigar. She has no problem with it. She hates cigarettes. By the way, talking about a cigar, for so many of these, I smoked a cigar during this Fireside Chat. But for reasons that are perplexing to me, we're not allowed because, what was it? YouTube? Was that what it was? Facebook? What am I, a bad example for America's youth? God. To think about what now constitutes good example or bad example, that the decency of a person is like a non-issue, but do they smoke a cigar is an issue. Oh well, anyway, I just want you to know I miss it. Many of you miss it, but what can we do? So anyway, it's a chance. It's completely unscripted. It's a chance for me to spontaneously talk to you, take your questions spontaneously, and just get to know each other a little better, or at least to be more honest, to get you to know me a little better and what makes me tick. So I always begin with a subject, and then I take your questions. So today's subject, courtesy of Megan, works for PragerU. How old are you, Megan?
25.
25. So she had a very good question. How come there are so many parents whose kids have different values, even antithetical values, especially in the case of traditional parents, like specifically traditionally religious Americans, whether they're Catholic or Jewish or Protestant, evangelical, Mormon, and their kids have contempt for religion? Why does that happen? Where, so to speak, did the parents go wrong? Or, for example, parents who love America, who believe in its essential values, e pluribus unum, in God we trust, and liberty, and their kids have contempt for those values as well. How does that happen? Well, the most obvious answer is they went to school. I'm not against people going to school. I just want to be honest. The schools have been taken over by educators who call themselves progressive, people who are on the left, and their values are antithetical to traditional parents' values. You name the area, and it's probably very different. That's the most obvious answer. As I have often told parents, sending your kid to most colleges in the United States or Canada or Europe, or certainly Western Europe, is playing Russian roulette with their values. Well, they have to go with a pretty strong value system to survive the onslaught against what they believe. Some kids do. Some kids are drunk for 4 years, and they survive it because they were inebriated during class. I am not advocating that. I've never been drunk in my life. I am one of the 11 Americans who is allowed to drink. In other words, if you're a Mormon, you're not allowed to drink. You're Muslim, you're not allowed to drink. Okay, but I'm allowed to drink, but I just don't enjoy it. I'm not against it. If you don't get drunk and you enjoy drinking, drink. I have no issue with that. But I'm not advocating that in college. I'm just saying it's one of the silver linings of being inebriated at college is that you may have missed the brainwash. All right, so that's one obvious answer, school. And I'd like to give you a less obvious answer. People don't know how to articulate the values that people like I, or people like me, hold. This is a huge problem. go to college and you learn God is wishful thinking. Let's take a religious example. God is wishful thinking. The Bible is a fairy tale. God is completely unnecessary for a good life. Religion is the greatest. There's been more murder in the name of God and religion than anything else. These are normative teachings in our schools. By the way, just on the last one, this is worthy, if you would please, I'd like to talk about this issue. More people killed in the name of religion than anything else. I mean, just as a matter of just fact, in the 20th century, more people were slaughtered than in any century in the history of the world. And it was virtually all done. 99% of it was done by atheists and secular people. And I'm not saying secular people are murderers or atheists are murderers. I'm just telling you it wasn't done in the name of religion. Communism, which is the greatest killer of humanity in the 20th century, was anti-religion. Nazism had nothing to do with a religion. Its symbol wasn't the cross. Its symbol was the swastika. If it had been a Christian movement, it would have had a cross as a symbol. Now, a lot of Christians went along with it, which is a terrible, terrible thing. It's one of the reasons Europe has rejected religion, because Christianity largely failed during World War II. I'm sorry to say, it's a very painful subject. But anyway, just know that that's just not true. Religion, people, more true is, more good has been done by Judeo-Christian religions than anything else. Just look at all the hospitals built in the United States by Jews and Christians. Beth Israel here, and the Methodist hospital over there, and the Catholic Charity Hospital over here. I mean, that's certainly in American history. That's who did most of the good, religious people, in the name, by the way, of their religion. So what has happened? Parents have been unable to articulate what they believe. I'm not blaming the parents. I'm just telling you that that's what's happened. And if you can't articulate it, they will be persuaded, that is the children, at school by people who can articulate the opposite value system. So you have the inarticulate traditional American versus the articulate anti-traditional American. Who's going to win in the lives and minds of so many young people? The articulate. I've spent my life articulating the traditional value system, both the American and the Judeo-Christian. That's why I beg you, and I can't be accused of doing this for money. Nobody writes a Bible commentary to get wealthy. But what I am trying to do in my 5-volume commentary on the first 5 books of the Bible, called the Rational Bible, that's my commentary, is to, on purely rational grounds, make the case for the greatness of the Bible, for the essential nature of the Judeo-Christian value system, and how powerful it is. And read the reviews on Amazon. I have nothing to do with those reviews, about how people came into it skeptical, agnostic, atheist. They've left their religion, and then this persuaded them on rational grounds of the greatness of biblical religion. People don't know how to make the case. If you don't know how to make the case, you're going to lose out to the people who can make a case. I can give you so many examples. Is God necessary for morality? Well, I have, a bunch of videos on that subject. If God didn't say do not murder, murder isn't wrong. That doesn't mean atheists kill. It's amazing. People are well educated, but they can't think clearly. The fact that murder is not wrong if there is no God, it's just a personal opinion. It's just a personal opinion that murder is wrong. Doesn't mean that atheists will all murder. One has nothing to do with the other. And there are religious people who murder. I acknowledge that. That's not my argument. My argument is only if there is something higher than humanity from which morality emanates is morality an objective reality. That's all. but atheist professors, atheist philosophers know that morality is simply a matter of personal opinion. If there isn't an objective source, that's all. It's not objective, it's subjective. That's the whole point that I want to make. Parents don't know how to make that argument. Give you another one. You know, I've asked this question over and over. Would you save your dog or a stranger first? Which would you save first, a dog or a stranger if both were drowning? So people answer, since I was a kid asking this question, I began lecturing in my 20s, and I asked then and I ask now, which would you save? 2/3 would not save the stranger. Why? I love my dog. I don't love the stranger. I follow my heart. I follow love. But the biblical view is humans are created in God's image, animals are not. Therefore, humans are intrinsically more precious than animals. And if you don't have a biblical basis for that, humans aren't more precious than animals. My animal is more precious than the stranger. And then then people again who don't know how to think clearly will say, well, what if it's Hitler drowning? Then it's not a stranger. That my whole point is it's a stranger. Right? For all you know, the stranger, I mean, I might as well say, what if the stranger is your uncle? But then it's not a stranger anymore. You can't change the question. So people have not been able to articulate the system to their children. I am in the baby boomer generation. So my parents' generation fought in World War II, right? They had two values that they had that were huge. They didn't want their children to suffer of a depression like they did, that is economic depression, and they didn't want them to have war. That was it. They hated the depression, they were right to. They hated war, they were right to. I got it. But that's not enough. They didn't articulate what they stood for. So this generation, which many call the greatest generation, there were many great generations. I don't think it's the greatest, but it was a great generation. This great generation did not know how to articulate its great values to its children. That's what happened. They said, and I remember as a kid, in my 20s, I would say, you know, our parents, I didn't mean my parents. My parents did a good job giving me these values. But my parents' generation would say, we will give our children everything we did not have when we were kids, especially thinking material things and even peace. The problem is, and I said this in my 20s, the problem is you didn't give us what you did have when you were children. That's the problem. They didn't give them religion well. They didn't give them a love of America well. They assumed that they would have it through osmosis, that they would just imbibe it, but it's not true. I'll give you or here's another one. Parents think, a lot of parents say, you just have to provide your children with a model and that your children will model themselves after you. But that's not true. Think about music, which I always think about because I love music. Let's say you are a great pianist and you're the mother of a bunch of kids or one kid and you play the piano really well. Will your kid play the piano really well? Of course not. You could be the greatest model of piano playing in the world. You could be a world-class virtuoso. It won't matter. You have to give your kid piano lessons. That generation didn't give kids character lessons, didn't give kids America lessons, didn't give kids religion lessons. Maybe, Sunday school. There's our guy. Is he in the photo? There he goes. Do you know that as soon as I start talking, he leaves? It's a good thing I have a good self-image, because he is a humbling animal to have around. Every week this happens. He was dead asleep before this started. You guys want to let him out, or he's coming back? Are you coming back, Otto? Otto, you want to look in the camera and say hi to everybody? Hey, Otto. There we go. Do we have a nice view of him? That's the man. That is truly a face only a mother could love. I have to admit that. Or a father in my case. All right. Take a nap. Okay, all's good. This is the issue. Your kid won't play piano because you play piano, because you're a great model of piano playing. You got to give the kid music lessons. They didn't give them character lessons. In American history before the 50s, kids routinely got all these character lessons in school and school books and from their religion and from their parents. This is how you have to be honest. This is you have to have integrity. You have to have loyalty. I just spoke at a religious school, in this case Jewish, in Florida, just last week. Yeah, that's right. Since my last event with you, and what happened was amazing. I walk into the class with the principal of the school. It's an all-girls school, and I spoke from 6th grade to 12th grade, the entire school, and when we walked in, the girls all stood up. Now, I don't know if do they stand up for every visitor who comes to speak? I don't know. But I'm sure they stand up for their principal. I mean, I did. I stood up when the principal walked in. Does that happen now? I mean, kids curse principals. Kids curse teachers. There were prayers said for teachers in America until 1962, when the Supreme Court, in the beginning of the end of the American value system, I date it to 1962, and the Supreme Court decision against voluntary prayer in school. It was always voluntary. And you know what the prayer was? It was the New York State Regents Prayer. That's what it was called. And I don't remember it exactly, but it went something like, oh God, please bless our parents, our teachers, something like that. So kids, I mean, is that a good thing to bless your teacher? Is that a good thing to have kids say, God bless my teachers? So how do you not expect it? Take liberty. Half of millennials do not believe in free speech for, quote, hate speech. But that's the whole point of free speech, is for what you think is hate speech. It's no big deal to have free speech for speech you agree with. The point is to have free speech for speech you don't agree with. But the parents didn't teach them that value. Liberty, remember? Liberty, e pluribus unum, in God we trust, the American Trinity. I have a video on it, 5 minutes, it's worth watching. Or my book on it, Still the Best Hope. Wasn't taught. So parents don't realize, oh my God, how did my kid end up this way? And the answer is because in so many instances, they were not well taught in the other way. I'm not blaming you if you're a parent. I'm not blaming you. My heart goes out to you, actually. I met a man on a cruise. I take cruise with listeners. I have been for 25 years, all over the world, from Antarctica to Scandinavia, Africa, Asia, everywhere. And I get a chance to really know the people on board. Obviously, we spent 10 days together on a ship, and on land, obviously, but on a ship. And I get to speak to a lot of them. But there was a man there who told me he had 3 sons. They have PhDs from Yale, Princeton, and Stanford. Now, most parents would think, woohoo, that is success, right? Parent has three children, male or female, PhDs from the most elite universities in the country, or 3 of the most elite. But he said, they all reject my values. He was a traditional Christian man. And he said, you know what? I wish they never went for their graduate degrees. I happily live without Stanford, Yale, and Princeton to have kids with whom I could share my values. The good man, you have to learn how to articulate the values, or there's little hope. That's one of the things we try to do at PragerU. And certainly my life has been dedicated to that. So that's a big part of the reason for this issue. All righty, I think we're good. Listen, this is terrific. Send me your questions. How do people send their questions? Just go to PragerU.com?
We post on our social media.
On our social media, on Facebook and so on? Okay. This is the PragerU Facebook page, is that it? Good. Don't forget I mentioned the Rational Bible. Even if you think religion is, especially if you think religion is for dummies, I really ask you to read that. I have a national radio show where I speak 3 hours a day on what's going on in the world and other matters. And of course, there are the PragerU videos. And we want to preserve the best values that made America a great country. With all its flaws, it is still great. Thanks for watching. See you next week. From my home to yours, thank you.
Welcome to Radical Cram School. We're going to learn about social justice, revolution. Hello, my young comrades.
Just when you thought we'd run out of cancer, along comes a fresh supply. Now, to be clear, I'm not being mean to these kids. I feel sorry for them. They're victims of brainwashing. They've obviously been coached on what to say by either their parents, Christina Wong, or both.
I'm going to show a picture. This is my way of figuring out if you've been tainted by the patriarchy.
Patriarchy? What? Who's that?
Who do you think it is?
It's Harvey Weinstein, because inside every white man there's a serial rapist just fighting to get out, right? All these white rape gangs everywhere. It's an epidemic. But wait, it gets worse.
There's just like this thing about white people that just makes me be like, I'm like, they're like right there in a pool, and I'm just like walking into the pool, and they just give me the death stare, and then I'm just like.
What?
There's just like this thing about white people that just makes me be like.
What kind of parent would teach their child to be afraid of a person based on their skin colour? What kind of person could possibly do such a thing? Oh yeah, a racist. So in a class for teaching kids that racism is bad, you're actually teaching them to be racist. Genius.
Hello, Kitty!
It is Hello Kitty. What is she missing?
Imagine being such a pathetic snowflake that you think Hello Kitty not having a mouth is some vast racist, sexist conspiracy.
No,
Her mouth. Why doesn't she have a mouth?
The people who created her didn't want Asian girls to speak up about who they are. Yeah, to speak up about who they were.
Very profound. Very profound.
Yeah, you obviously just told her to say that.
Very profound.
The person who designed Hello Kitty is an Asian woman. She explained why it was designed without a mouth years ago. And it's got nothing to do with silencing Asian women. Again, the designer is an Asian woman. I mean, Hello Kitty doesn't have feet either. Is that a racist throwback to Asian women having bound feet? Or is it just a harmless design feature and you're a hysterical moron? I'm guessing it's the latter.
Very profound. What do we know about him? What do we know about him?
He's bad.
Orange man bad. Orange man bad. Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man.
How do we feel about this wall?
It is blocking opportunity for people that don't live in America to come here for a better opportunity.
And we all came at some point from some other place.
Yeah, so let me teach you something. If you don't have any borders and you allow everyone from some other place to come to America, it stops being like America and starts being like some other place. Meaning the opportunities afforded to all those who came legally disappear.
My dad came here and my mom came here too.
They came here from where?
Cambodia.
Oh, wow. What do you think they think that they came from all the way to Cambodia and this is what they get to look at on the TV screen all the time?
Right, because I'm sure they prefer to look at something else. Oh, I don't know, maybe the 23,000 mass graves containing the bodies of 1.3 million Cambodians, who were all slaughtered as a result of a left-wing government genocide. Now that I think of it, Christina and Pol Pot have similar tastes in headwear. Oh yeah, and after Cambodia's communist regime got done killing a quarter of its own population, the United States accepted 158,000 Cambodian refugees, you know, because it's so racist and all.
What does gender fluid mean?
Like you can be any gender you want to be. You're not a boy, or like you're not just a boy, you're not just a girl.
Yeah. Does anybody know anyone who's gender non-binary? Elle?
I am gender fluid.
You're gender fluid.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, sounds more like child abuse to me.
I have friends in the pool.
and I was telling them that I wanted to be a boy girl. And one of my friends said I can't because I was born as a girl and God made you as a girl.
What does a 6-year-old know about anything? Yet you're imposing sexuality and your warped ideas about gender on a 6-year-old. That's just creepy. Stop.
I have lived in America my whole life. This is a case of structural racism. Say it with me.
Structural racism.
Structural racism. So structural, it gives non-white people giant public corporate-sponsored media platforms to endlessly lecture white people about how evil they are.
When Donnie the bully was calling Hannah Rochelle Ching Chong Chu or things like that, has anybody ever had that happen to them?
Well,
No, it didn't. So that kind of suggests that America is nowhere near as racist as you relentlessly claim it to be.
White women earn 75% of what white men earn.
Why do they get to earn more?
Because they work longer hours, and when that factor is eliminated, the gender wage gap virtually disappears.
That's what we would have to do to get a full cookie, is form a union.
No, you just have to work the same hours, because in most evil white Western countries, gender employment discrimination is illegal.
So what are the few things that fathers have to think about?
mostly they rest.
Resting, yeah.
Now, I'm not calling Christina Wong a cunt, but she did literally dress up as a vagina before proceeding to reel off politically correct statements.
Always ask what someone's preferred gender pronoun is.
And called it comedy. Yeah, really.
My Asian vagina does have the power to end racism. I'm gonna have sex with the entire state of Alabama now.
Weird flex, but okay. Believe it or not, according to Salon.com, that video was one of the funniest political comedy moments of 2014. Yeah, I had funnier bowel movements in 2014. But then again, Salon's #1 political comedy moment of 2014 was a stand-up show about white people in the United States becoming a minority because racism is so hilarious. Here's the point. This is just some crappy YouTube web series. Oof, look at that ratio. Comments disabled. But wait, I thought people being silenced was a bad thing. Except when they're trying to criticize you. Imagine that. So it's just a crappy YouTube web series. But schools and colleges across the West are already imposing elements of this on your kids. This is what they want. Your children brainwashed, indoctrinated, and turned into NPCs.
So, Orange Man. Bad.
Teaching hatred to fight hatred. Teaching racism to fight racism.
There's just like this thing about white people that just makes me be like...
Using kids as political weapons to amplify racist, regressive lies that foster more division and more bigotry. Yet another perfect illustration of why everyone should homeschool.